Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless. If you're here for it, hit subscribe and let's go.
I learned early that in the Morrison family, success had a very specific definition. My cousin Derek was chief of cardiac surgery at Massachusetts General Hospital. My brother Nathan ran a mid-sized accounting firm with 12 employees. My sister Claire married a corporate attorney who made partner at 32. And then there was me. "What exactly do you do again?" my aunt would ask at every family gathering, her voice dripping with concern that fooled no one. "Tech consulting," I'd say. Oh. The word carried an entire novel of disappointment. Still doing that computer stuff. My father, Richard Morrison, had spent 37 years climbing the corporate ladder at a pharmaceutical company. He'd started in sales, worked his way to regional manager, then vice president of East Coast operations. His entire identity was wrapped in that title, that corner office, those quarterly earnings reports he'd mention casually at barbecues. He'd wanted his children to follow traditional paths. Executive. Real careers with business cards that impressed people at cocktail parties. I'd gone into technology. Worse, I'd gone into startups. "You're 28 years old," my mother said when I visited for Christmas 3 years ago. "When are you going to get a real job with benefits?" "I have benefits, Mom. I mean a real company. Not some garage operation that'll fold in 6 months." My father didn't even look up from his newspaper. "Your cousin Derek just bought his second home. Lake House in New Hampshire." The message was clear. I was the family disappointment. What they didn't know was that my computer stuff had become something extraordinary. It started with a cybersecurity protocol I developed in my apartment at 2 a.m, running on caffeine and frustration. A friend working in government IT mentioned they were having issues with data breaches. I built them a solution. That solution caught the attention of a defense contractor. Then another. Then the Department of Homeland Security. By year 2, I'd incorporated as a private consulting firm specializing in high-level government cybersecurity infrastructure. By year 3, I had 17 employees and contracts with 4 federal agencies. By year 5, my company, Sentinel Security Systems, had grown to employ 140 people across 3 offices. Our client list included agencies I literally couldn't name without violating federal disclosure agreements. Our annual revenue had crossed $180 million. I'd been named to Forbes 30 Under 30 list in the technology category. I'd given keynote speeches at cybersecurity conferences. I'd been photographed shaking hands with senators and agency directors. My family knew none of this. "Why don't you tell them?" my best friend Marcus asked over coffee one Saturday morning. "Because I want to see how long they'll keep dismissing me," I said. "Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every birthday party, they treat me like I'm still a broke college graduate playing with computers in my parents' basement. That's not healthy." "It's strategic," I corrected. "I'm watching who in my family actually cares about me versus who only cares about status." The truth was simpler and more painful. Part of me wanted them to apologize first. To realize they'd been cruel without needing my success to make them regret it. But families like mine don't work that way. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday in March. Heavy cream cardstock. Embossed gold lettering. The kind of invitation that screamed, "Important people only. Professional Achievement Gala. Harborview Hotel Grand Ballroom. Saturday, April 15th, 6 p.m. I opened it expecting the usual family gathering details. Instead, I found a handwritten note from my mother on separate stationery. "Megan, your father and I have discussed this and we think it's best if you don't attend. This is a professional event with his colleagues and industry leaders. Your cousin Derek will be giving a toast about family success, and Nathan is bringing several business associates. We don't want you to feel uncomfortable or out of place. Perhaps it's best you sit this one out." I read it 3 times. They'd uninvited me from my own father's retirement party. Not because of a venue capacity issue. Not because of a scheduling conflict. Because they were embarrassed of me. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire, my sister. "Mom told me about the party situation. It's probably for the best. Dad's partners from the pharmaceutical company will be there, plus some executives from the parent corporation. You understand, right? Your cousin Derek is chief of surgery now. It's just optics. Optics. I was bad optics for the Morrison family success narrative. Another text, this time from Nathan. Don't take it personally. Dad's worked his whole career for this moment. Let him have his night without complications. I was a complication. I set my phone down and stared at the invitation for a long moment. Then I did what I always did when my family hurt me. I went back to work. What my family didn't know was that Forbes had been working on a feature story about me for 6 weeks. The interview happened in February. The photographer spent 4 hours shooting me in our main office in front of servers standing with my senior team. They'd wanted to capture the woman revolutionizing government cybersecurity infrastructure. The article was scheduled to publish in the April issue, hitting newsstands and going live online on April 14th. One day before my father's retirement gala. The journalist, Rebecca Chin, had called me 2 days after I received my father's disinvitation. We'd love to do a video component, she said. You're our cover story for the 30 under 30 technology section. We're thinking a short behind-the-scenes piece showing you at work. Maybe interviewing some of your government clients who can speak on the record. When were you thinking? April 15th, actually. I know it's a Saturday, but we have a camera crew available and... What time? We were thinking late afternoon. Around 6. The same time as my father's party. I smiled. Actually, Rebecca, could I make a suggestion? I didn't tell my family I wasn't coming to the party. I simply didn't respond to the invitation or the texts. Silence, I'd learned, made people nervous. My mother called on April 10th. Megan, honey, I just want to make sure we're on the same page about Saturday. I received your note, Mom. Good. I'm glad you understand. It's just, your father has worked so hard and this night is really about celebrating his professional legacy with his peers. I understand completely. You're not upset. Not at all, I said truthfully. I wasn't upset. I was done. Oh good. Because Claire was worried you might make a scene or show up anyway or... I won't be there, Mom. I promise. She exhaled with relief. Thank you for being mature about this. I hung up and immediately called Rebecca Chin. Change of plans, I said. What if the video interview happened at the Harborview Hotel? Same timing, same day. The hotel. Rebecca sounded confused. Trust me. It'll make a better story. I wasn't at the Harborview Hotel when my family arrived at 6 o'clock. But I knew exactly what was happening because my assistant Maya had strategically positioned herself in the lobby. She texted me updates every 15 minutes. 6:07 p.m. Your dad just arrived. Looks nervous. Your mom's wearing a very expensive dress. Lots of pharmaceutical industry people here. I recognize some faces from news articles. 6:23 p.m. Your cousin Derek is working the room. Just heard him tell someone he's chief of cardiac surgery. Your brother Nathan brought 3 colleagues. Everyone's drinking champagne. 6:41 p.m. Dinner service starting. Your dad's at the head table. They've got a microphone set up. Speech is coming soon. I sat in my office downtown wearing jeans and a blazer and waited. At 6:55 p.m. Rebecca Chin and her camera crew arrived at my office. Megan, are you sure about this location change? Rebecca asked, adjusting her press badge. The hotel seemed important to you, but... We're going to the hotel, I said. But first, I need to give you some context for the story you're actually covering tonight. I told her everything. We arrived at the Harborview Hotel at 7:34 p.m. The gala was in full swing. Through the ballroom windows I could see my father standing at the podium mid-speech gesturing proudly. The room was filled with at least 200 people. Colleagues, executives, family members. My mother sat at the head table, beaming. Derek was visible in the front row, nodding along to whatever my father was saying. Rebecca looked at me. Are you ready? I've been ready for years. The camera operator hoisted the professional rig onto his shoulder. The kind with bright LED panels and a boom microphone that screamed, major media presence. We walked into the lobby. The hotel manager, whom I'd called 2 days earlier, smiled at me knowingly. Miss Morrison. Everything is arranged as you requested. Thank you, David. Rebecca adjusted her press badge so it was clearly visible. Forbes in bold letters. Then we walked toward the ballroom. My father was mid-sentence when we entered. And I'm proud to say that in my 37 years with Morrison Pharmaceuticals, I've built relationships that... The ballroom doors opened. A professional camera crew with bright lights doesn't enter quietly. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-word. My father paused, squinting against the sudden illumination. I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. This is a private. Rebecca Chin walked directly to the head table, her press badge swinging, cameraman following. My mother's face went from confused to horrified in 3 seconds. Rebecca's voice carried clearly across the now silent ballroom. Mr. Morrison? I'm Rebecca Chin from Forbes magazine. I apologize for the interruption, but I'm here to interview your daughter for our 30 Under 30 cover story. The silence that followed was absolute. My father's mouth opened. No sound came out. My mother's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, hitting the table with a sharp crack. Derek, visible in the front row, looked like he'd been struck. Rebecca continued, professional and calm. We've been trying to reach Megan Morrison, founder and CEO of Sentinel Security Systems. Our research indicated she might be here tonight, and we're on a tight deadline for our technology sector cover feature. Is she present? 200 pairs of eyes swept the room. And that's when I stepped out from behind the camera crew. I'm here, Rebecca, I said clearly. My father started screaming. Not words. Just a sound, something between shock and rage and disbelief. My mother stood so fast her chair tipped backward. Nathan's face had gone completely white. Claire looked like she might faint. What? My father's voice cracked. What is this? What is she talking about? Rebecca, perfectly professional, held up her tablet. Sir, your daughter is our April cover story. The 28-year-old securing America's digital infrastructure. How Megan Morrison built a $180 million cybersecurity empire. She turned the screen toward the room. There I was. Professional photograph. Standing in front of server banks. The Forbes 30 Under 30 banner clearly visible. My mother grabbed the tablet, her hands shaking. This can't. There must be a mistake. Megan does computer consulting. She's the CEO of Sentinel Security Systems, Rebecca said, consulting her notes. Primary contractor for the Department of Homeland Security's Critical Infrastructure Protection Program. Lead developer of the encryption protocols currently protecting 17 federal agencies. Last year's revenue, $180 million. Current valuation, approximately $340 million. Employer of 140 people across 3 offices. The room erupted. Not in applause. In chaos. Derek stood up, pointing at me. That's impossible. She's never mentioned. Because you never asked, I said quietly. My father was still at the podium, gripping it like it was the only thing keeping him upright. You've been lying to us for years? I've never lied once, I said. You asked what I did. I said tech consulting. That's accurate. You let us think you were struggling. You assumed I was struggling. There's a difference. My mother was scrolling frantically through the Forbes article on Rebecca's tablet, her face getting paler with each paragraph. It says here you've given keynote speeches at international conferences. That you advised senators on cybersecurity legislation. That you were personally commended by the Department of Homeland Security Director. All true, I said. Nathan finally found his voice. Then why the hell didn't you tell us? I met his eyes. Because you uninvited me from tonight. From Dad's retirement party. As I was an embarrassment. Bad optics. Remember. The ballroom went silent again. My father's colleagues were watching this family implosion with horrified fascination. Claire started crying. We didn't know. You didn't care to know, I corrected. For 5 years, every time I visited, you asked what I did. I said cybersecurity. You heard, computer stuff. And stopped listening. You compared me to Derek and Nathan and decided I was the failure. That's not, my mother started. Mom, you literally wrote me a note saying I'd make Dad uncomfortable at his professional event. You said I was out of place with his industry leaders. I gestured to Rebecca. This journalist has interviewed senators about my work. I have a 14-person security detail when I travel because of the classified nature of my contracts. Last month, I briefed members of the National Security Council. My father's face was red. You're saying this is our fault? That we should have just known. I'm saying you should have cared enough to ask follow-up questions. To take interest in my work beyond whether it impressed your golf buddies. One of my father's colleagues, a gray-haired man in an expensive suit, stood up from a nearby table. Richard, is this true? Your daughter is Megan Morrison from Sentinel Security. My father looked at him blankly. The man pulled out his phone, scrolled for a moment, then showed my father the screen. My company uses their infrastructure protocols. We paid them $4.2 million last year for security implementation. She's legendary in the industry. Another executive chimed in. Wait, Morrison, I just placed it. You gave the keynote at the Atlanta Cybersecurity Summit. I was there. You talked about the future of quantum-resistant encryption. Someone else. My daughter's in tech. She has your photograph on her inspiration board. My father looked around the room, seeing his colleagues recognize me, seeing the respect in their faces, respect that had nothing to do with him. He turned back to me. You deliberately kept this from us. I waited for you to care, I said. There's a difference. Rebecca, sensing a powerful narrative moment, spoke up. Ms. Morrison, would you mind if we filmed this as part of the feature? The family dynamic angle adds incredible depth to your success story. I looked at my parents, at Derek's stunned expression, at Nathan and Claire's shame-filled faces. Actually, Rebecca, let's do the interview properly. Could we use one of the hotel's conference rooms? Absolutely. I started to walk away. Megan, wait. My mother's voice cracked. I paused. You can't just leave. We need to talk about this. You need to explain. I don't need to explain anything, Mom. I was never the problem. Your assumptions were. My father stepped away from the podium, walking toward me. So what, you're just going to humiliate us in front of everyone here? Make us look like fools? You did that yourselves when you uninvited me because you were embarrassed of what you thought I was. We're your family. Then act like it. Derek, who'd been silent, finally spoke. His voice was tight. You know what this looks like, right? Like you're punishing us for not worshipping you. I turned to face him fully. Derek, the last time I saw you, you introduced yourself to my date as the successful cousin. You do that to make yourself feel important. I never had to tell anyone what I did. They already knew. His face flushed. One of my father's pharmaceutical colleagues leaned over to him and whispered something. My father's expression shifted from anger to something else. Fear, maybe. Realization. Megan, he said, his voice different now. Smaller. I didn't know. We truly didn't know. You didn't want to know, I said. Because as long as I was the family disappointment, you all got to feel successful by comparison. My mother was crying now. Real tears. That's not fair. We love you. You love the version of me you invented. The struggling one you could pity and fix and lecture about real jobs. You don't know the actual me at all. Rebecca touched my elbow gently. We have the conference room ready whenever you are. I nodded. As I turned to leave, Nathan called out, So that's it? You're done with us. I paused in the doorway. I'm done being treated like I'm not enough. If you want a relationship with the real me, the successful, accomplished CEO me, you know where to find me. But I'm not going to shrink myself anymore to make you feel better about your choices. Our choices. Claire's voice was sharp. What's that supposed to mean? It means Derek became a surgeon because Dad wanted a doctor in the family. Nathan took over the accounting firm because Dad said it was stable. You married a lawyer because Mom said he was good stock. I'm the only one who built something I actually wanted. The truth of it hung in the air. My father sank into a chair. I looked at Rebecca. Let's do the interview. The Harborview Hotel's executive conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. Rebecca's team set up lights and cameras efficiently. Before we start, Rebecca said, I have to say, that was the most dramatic entrance I've made in 10 years of journalism. Sorry for the chaos. Are you kidding? This is incredible. The family who didn't recognize their own daughter's success? It's a perfect narrative angle. She wasn't wrong. We spent 90 minutes filming. Rebecca asked about my company's founding, the government contracts, the technical innovations that made Sentinel Security unique. She asked about challenges I'd faced as a young woman CEO in a male-dominated field. And then she asked about my family. When they uninvited you from tonight, what went through your mind? I chose my words carefully. I realized I'd been waiting for them to see me. Really see me. And they couldn't because they'd already decided who I was. Sometimes the most painful thing isn't being rejected. It's being misunderstood by people who should know you better than anyone. Will you reconcile? That's up to them. I've spent years trying to earn approval I should have had automatically. I'm done with that. They can either accept who I actually am, or they can keep the imaginary version of me they prefer. But I won't play the family disappointment anymore. Rebecca smiled. That's a perfect ending for the article. When the interview wrapped at 9:47 p.m., I checked my phone. 43 missed calls. 68 text messages. Most from my parents and siblings. A few from extended family who'd apparently heard what happened. One from Derek. You could have told us. This is cruel. One from Nathan. Dad left his own party. Mom's devastated. Happy now. One from Claire. You embarrassed the entire family. We'll never live this down. And one from my mother, timestamped 20 minutes ago. Please come back. We need to talk. Please. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called Maya, my assistant. How's the office? Quiet. How was the interview? Cathartic. I saw the photos. Forbes already posted a preview on social media. You're trending. Of course I was. I drove home to my apartment in the city. A penthouse I'd bought 2 years ago, mortgage-free, that my family had never seen because I'd never invited them. My phone kept buzzing. Around midnight my father called. I almost didn't answer. But I did. Megan. His voice was rough. Your mother and I are sitting in our car outside the hotel. We've been here for 2 hours. We need to talk. There's nothing to say, Dad. There's everything to say. I was wrong. We were wrong. Please. You were wrong about what specifically? Silence. Then, about you. About what you do. About assuming. About assuming I was a failure because I didn't follow your script? Yes. His voice broke. Yes. I'm sorry. It wasn't enough. But it was something. The Forbes article goes live tomorrow, I said. You'll be able to read all about what I've been doing while you were busy being embarrassed of me. Megan, please. I hung up. The Forbes article dropped at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. By 6:47 a.m., it was the top trending story in the business section. By 8:15 a.m., I had interview requests from 3 major news networks. By 10 a.m., my company's website had crashed from traffic. And by noon, the full consequences of my family's public humiliation began rolling in. My phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Morrison? This is Janet Kellerman. I was at your father's retirement party last night. I'm the VP of Corporate Strategy at Morrison Pharmaceuticals, your father's company. I remember. I wanted to reach out personally. What happened last night was unfortunate. But I also wanted you to know that several of us had no idea you were Richard's daughter. We've been trying to contract with Sentinel Security for months for our East Coast data centers. I see. Would you be open to a conversation? The irony was perfect. Send me a proposal. My team will review it. She did. By end of business, Morrison Pharmaceuticals, my father's company of 37 years, had submitted a $6.8 million bid for infrastructure security upgrades. My father would eventually learn that his daughter's company was being courted by his employer. But the real consequences were more personal. Derek called on Monday morning. I've been getting questions from colleagues at the hospital. They saw the Forbes article. They're asking why I never mentioned my incredibly successful cousin. What did you tell them? That I didn't know. They don't believe me. They think I was deliberately hiding you to avoid being overshadowed. Were you? Silence. Derek, I was never competing with you. You made it a competition. I know. His voice was small. I'm sorry. Nathan's consequences were financial. His accounting firm lost 2 clients that week. Both of them startups in the tech sector who found out he'd dismissed his sister's work as